Hey everyone, and welcome back to the X-Ring. I appreciate you joining. Hope you're having a great week. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a rifle by Ruger, the Ruger American. Now guys, this is going to be a rather long intro, not something that I normally do on my videos. A big shout out to KCD in North Carolina for providing this for me for the testing. He's a good friend that lives locally, and he had just gotten this. And so I'll be one of the first persons to shoot this rifle other than it being test fired at the factory. But let's talk about some of the features. And the reason for this episode is because I get a lot of emails, and I welcome the comments and the feedback about people that are wanting to know if their hunting rifle or their hunting rig will be able to allow them to double it as a long-range rifle. And in most cases, absolutely it will. So let's talk about some of the features of the rifle, price point, and everything else. So getting started with this Ruger American, this is the Hunter. This is actually a Sports South exclusive. Ruger does a lot of stuff. It is on their website. I will provide a link at the bottom for the actual model number. But they do some with a stainless action or stainless barrel, and they'll call it someone else's exclusive, a Talo exclusive or something like that. And that's just the distributor's name. So on this Magpul chassis, you have a rubber butt plate. It is very cushiony. You have adjustable length of pull, so you can remove these spacers out to increase that length of pull depending on your stature. You have two sling attachment points, and you do have a cheek rest. It's not a riser so much. It is a riser in that it raises it, but it's not adjustable. And that will sometimes help you to get this proper so that you're not going to be way low or way high. And so you just have to work on your ring heights. You do have plenty of clearance on this one right here. Typically I like them a little lower, but this will work just fine, or at least it should. Coming on down, you do have an angled grip here. It actually feels really well in the hand, whether you're using this grip or you're actually wrapping the thumb over. The safety is located here in the middle. Makes it very convenient, very easy to operate. I've already checked the rifle, guys. It is clear. Magazine is clear. And let's talk about the trigger. The trigger is adjustable. You guys can see that blade style trigger. It is adjustable from 3 pounds to 5 pounds. The magazine release is ambidextrous, so you can do it for a left-handed or a right-handed shooter. It uses the Magpul AC 7.62 magazine, so you can get, it comes with one 5-rounder, but you can get these in 10-rounders. So that'd be good if you wanted to do something with light PRS shooting or something, you needed a 10-round mag, those are available. Now, let's talk about the bolt and the action. This has a 70-degree throw, and guys, what that means is if you measure the angle, let's just put this on, let's just say that's 0. 90 degrees would be straight up. You notice this is just short of it. They call this a 70-degree throw. And what that allows is a little more clearance for the eyepiece, for the scope. So you're not working it and now your hand is crashing into the scope itself. So that's a nice touch, having that 70-degree throw. As far as the action, it does feel smooth. I do notice that on a lot of the Rugers, you can hear the machining marks where, let me get my microphone close. You hear that? Feels like you're scratching, or hears like you're scratching a record. I'm sure you could polish the bolt and get rid of that. I'm not a big fan of that noise. It's just something that I notice, but it does feel smooth. It does come with your base here. Now it is a 0-degree base. And guys, what that means is there's no taper to it, okay? So when you mount the scope, you're relying on all of the internal adjustment to be able to get you out to distance. For long-range shooting, you're typically going to want to start with a 20-minute of angle base. Now, this is the first thing. It doesn't matter if you're shooting a mil-based scope or MOA-based scope. They usually refer to it as a 0 MOA or 20 MOA. You can convert it and find out exactly what it is in mils. But what it means is this rail here actually has 20 minutes of angle built into it. And you're like, well, why would you want it downwards? Well, you got to remember, when you're shooting, you're actually aiming the barrel up. Whether you realize it or not, that's what you're doing with the erector tube in here. So that 20 minutes of angle, if it starts off there, it gives you more adjustment internally within the scope, 20 minutes actually. So it allows you to shoot out further. I don't know what the internal adjustment is on this Vortex scope. This is a Vortex Viper. It is the 6.5 to 20 by 44. This scope you can purchase for $299 on Midway. So right now we're talking about a $700 rifle with a $300 optic. You're at $1,000. That's a pretty good budget-friendly way to get into long-range shooting. I don't know what the rifle's capable of yet. We'll find that out. This does feature a cold hammer forged barrel. This is chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. I know Casey does a lot of deer hunting and a lot of coyote hunting, and he really likes that 6.5 Creedmoor offering. So this is a cold hammer forged 18-inch barrel. You're going to be giving up a little bit of velocity. My preferred length in a 6.5 Creedmoor for all-around competitions would be like a 24-inch minimum. 26 and longer is probably better if you're just going to dedicate it to long-range shooting, but you don't want to give up that velocity. But even so, I'm sure this 18-inch will be plenty good enough. Ruger's already threaded it for you, 5H24. We will throw a suppressor on this later on. We'll throw a Silencer Co. The hybrid on here because it's a dual can. And I do like the M-LOK attach points here. It's a good way for you to put a sling or attach it that way. And then you can put a Harris bipod or something like a Harris on here. So let's go ahead and get this on paper at 100 yards. Let's check the velocity on it. I am going to use Hornady ELD Match to see what the rifle is capable of. I'm not going to worry about breaking it in. It is touted to be a hunting rifle. You'll also notice the contour of the rifle is not a lightweight or a pencil weight barrel, so it will be able to handle some heat. So you just need to be cognizant of that. You're not going to be able to just crank round after round because you're going to heat up a barrel so quickly, it will start throwing shots on you. So let's go ahead and get this thing on paper. Let's see how it does. Stay tuned. All right, so I just tightened everything up with my Borka tool set, made sure we were having 15-inch pounds on these rings, 65 on the bottom on the actual attached screws. And then I wanted to try to Boresight it. Now it's going to be a little tough with this riser in here, but that also gives you another challenge, that's getting the bolt out. So one of the things that I noticed was, in order to remove the bolt, you just press this along the left side and you can remove the bolt. But guess what? It's going to hit here. So what you have to do is once you release it, you just press the button, you roll it over upside down, and that will give you just enough clearance to get your bolt out. To put it back in, the exact same thing. So a little tip and trick for you, just so no one's taking off their chassis to take the bolt out. So this rifle hasn't been fired. I Boresighted as best I could. I've not fired a round down range yet. I have 2 targets. I'm going to shoot at the bottom target. The bottom circle, I will confirm it. I will get a chronograph reading, and then we will see what kind of group we can get. Like I said, 1 minute of angle or better. Ruger says guaranteed 1 minute with match ammunition. Let's see what happens. All right, so I've got 3 rounds loaded in the magazine of the 147 grain ELD match. All I've done was Boresight this to make sure it's going to at least hit the paper. I'll see how close it is and we'll get a muzzle velocity. All right, so here we go. First shots out of the Ruger American Hunter. I will tell you that the Viper it's not a PST, but the Viper glass is a little fuzzy on the edges, but the center is clear. Here we go. You know what? Not bad for a Boresight. It is actually nicking the bullseye at 4 o'clock. Muzzle velocity 2487. So yes, we are giving up some velocity with that 18-inch barrel. And it definitely recoils a little more than those 20-pound rifles that we're used to shooting, but it's very comfortable. Nothing bad. Here we go, second shot. Bottom of the bullseye, 7 o'clock. 2432 is the velocity. Okay, so it's definitely right at 1 MOA or just sub MOA. I'll get you a visual on that there in just a second. All right, so I have 3 shots right here in the base of the bullseye on the bottom. Now, let's say you're that hunter and you hit that deer or whatever with your rangefinder, and let's say you need to come up however many minutes, let's say 7 minutes. Now let's relate that to what we're doing at 100 yards. From here to here should be 1 inch, 2 inch, okay, so we're right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 inches. If I'm zeroed out, if we can move in a little closer on this, if I'm zeroed out here at 0, and I'm hitting what I'm aiming at, then if this has 1/4 minute clicks, which it does, that's 1 MOA, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm at 7 minutes up from my 100-yard zero. If everything works right, I should be in this general area with the next 3 shots. This is not a full-on tracking test. I just want to show you that you can take an 18-inch barreled Ruger American hunting rifle and still do long-range work with it. Let's see what happens. All right, 2416 was our last velocity. Now remember, guys, I'm still aiming at this bottom one, but I came up 7 minutes. It should hit near the top one. And it is in the bullseye here at 12 o'clock. So the tracking is good enough to be able to do long range work with it. I'm not going to do multiple shots with it because I don't want to waste my ammo. I appreciate Casey letting me use his rifle, but I have to pay for this on my own. And I wanted to try it out with some good quality ammo. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the thread protector off. I'm going to screw on a silencer hybrid. We're going to see how much it changes the zero. So right now what we've got, guys, is we've got 3 down here. We've got 1 up here. I'm going to aim here, 100-yard zero. I'm going to put the scope of the suppressor on. We're going to look at velocity as well as how much it drops. Stay tuned. All right, so now I've thrown the silencer co-hybrid on here. We're going to shoot the same ammunition, hopefully to make it a little more enjoyable, but nice little setup. I think all the weight from that hybrid is going to make the shot droop down into here somewhere. It is a shorter barrel, which gives it more rigidity, but I think it will shift it a little bit, but we'll see how it does. .2444. Point of impact shift changed quite a bit. Remember, we were aiming here. I think the bullet actually went right there. Let's go ahead and follow it up with another group to make sure that it's still going to be consistent. And it's right beside of it. So it's that easy. So now that I know when I throw the suppressor on it, the extra weight is making the barrel droop. So the 2 impacts are right here, okay? So I need to come over to the right 1 inch. So that's going to be 4 clicks right. So by doing this, I'm going to take this windage and I'm going to go right 1 minute. So that puts us on this line. Now I've got to go up 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. And it should put us somewhere up here towards the top. So we're going to go 4 inches up, 4 MOAs up. Right there. Let's see if the next shot will be in the bullseye. Very, very close. It was right here. But that correction is pretty darn close because the elevation, remember, 4 minutes when we came up was a little higher, but it's just outside into the green. I'll show you close-ups of it, but that's how easy you could do it. And then from that point, you can actually lift this up and just re-zero out your turrets to where they needed to be. That is good, that is good information to record in some type of dope book, knowing that when you throw your dedicated suppressor on here, that way if you don't have it, whatever the case is, you can always resume your zero based on the numbers that you have, on how much it's going to droop, how much it's going to move it left or right. But guys, bang for the buck. I really wish I had a place to shoot long range today because value, I'm a little over $1,000. I should be able to shoot long range. I still have the ability to get 2,400 and so feet per second, but I'll run the data on it. We'll look and see what that velocity will do for us with regards to how far we can go before we go subsonic on an 18-inch 6.5 Creedmoor barrel. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do is we had the first 3 shots that were in this bottom. And then what we did was we tracked it up, we had 1 up here. Then we put the suppressor on it, we had 2 here. We made the correction, we hit back up at the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the suppressor back off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this silencer hybrid is going to come off. I'll put the thread protector back on. I've zeroed these back out for the 100-yard zero without the suppressor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial this up to, let's say, 10 minutes. I'm going to go back to 0. I'll go back to 3. I'll go back to 0. I'll do the same on the windage. I'll go plus 4 minutes, minus 4 minutes, back to 0. So if everything's good, and the scope tracks, like I said, it's not a full tracking test or a box test, then I should theoretically be able to, 3 shots, be able to get them in that same area of impact where we started. So I think this will be a good test to see the repeatability of the scope, the rifle, everything else without the suppressor. Let's see what happens. All right, so we started this test with one 20-round box of ammunition. The first 3 at 100 yards with the sighter, then the 1 up, then the 2 down, and then back up. So I've got 3 rounds. We're going to go back to the bottom target. Let's see if we get some type of repeatability with this. Bullseye, 9 o'clock. Just outside of the bull at like 11 o'clock. I think it's back into the bull at 9 o'clock. So the entire setup moved up. Let's go ahead and grab this target and take a look at it, and we'll lay it out. But I think, yeah, I would actually have no problem shooting this at long range based on what I'm seeing. So I think it's a good option. All right, guys, so here's the target at 100 yards. I had a camera set up, but unfortunately it did not work down here. So the very first shots out of the Ruger, we had the 3 at 6 o'clock right in here. And then remember, we came up 7 minutes. We hit here. Then I hung the suppressor on it. It went here. We came over to the right 1 minute. We came up to 4 minutes, and it printed the next one here. So it was close. Like I said, I wasn't trying to zero that in. And then what I did was took the suppressor off, came down the 7 minutes, zeroed everything back up, and I have a 3-shot group right there. So what we'll do is we will measure this 3-shot group, this 3-shot group. I think we're going to be right at 1 minute of angle. And like I said, that's all you really need to do long-range shooting. Let's go check it out. All right, so I forgot to mention it does have a 1 8 twist. It is a cold hammer forged barrel. And by running calculations from the lab radar at 2,400 plus feet per second, I actually just put in 2,400 feet per second. With that 147 grain projectile, you're still good out to 1,100 yards before you start having to worry about getting subsonic. So I think all in all, guys, I mean, think about it. Less the suppressor, this whole package right at $1,100, okay? And I do know that's a lot of money. However, it gives you a platform to be able to do both your hunting and some long-range playing without breaking the bank. The other thing you need to remember is, remember we talked about the 20-minute of angle base? What I'd hate to do is put this information out here and you take this rifle at your buddy's range that you lined up and he's got 1,000 yards and you don't have enough elevation to be able to get out to that distance. That is a real problem, and that's something you would probably run into with this setup. You're probably going to be limited to 700-ish yards, maybe 800 yards. I don't know. Once again, I don't know what the internal adjustment is on this scope, and you also don't know how it's centered up in the reticle with the zero. So on this right here, I would probably, if I was going to try to do double duty with it, I would throw a 20 MOA base on here. Ruger probably makes one. If not, you could put some other companies on there. Mount your scope up. Now that's going to give you 20 more minutes of angle of adjustment on your scope itself. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that review of the Ruger American. Remember, look down below for the model number on there. I use the Borka tools on here. Remember, if you order anything through Borka, you can always contact me. I can help you get a better price, hopefully. And remember to check out Defender Ammunition. Huge sponsor of the channel. Hope you guys have a great week. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Hey Ray, what's the coupon code to Defender Ammo?
Of course, X-Ring.